Hey everyone, my name is Sumit Sarkar, and thank you for joining me today. In this presentation, I'll be exploring a topic that I found both fascinating and culturally rich, a comparative analysis of Hercules from Greek mythology and his Roman counterpart, Hercules. These two figures may originate from the same mythological roots, but they evolve into very different heroes based on their cultural values of Greece and Rome. This idea really resonated with me, especially because I love mythology and also enjoy following superhero stories like Marvel's Doctor Strange, who's a favorite of mine. I'm fascinated by characters who are powerful but also complex, struggling with their identities and responsibilities. That's exactly what we'll see with Heracles, his emotional depth and tragic arc, and how that changes when we look at Hercules through the lens of Roman values and storytelling. By the end of this presentation, I hope to give you a fresh perspective on how mythology evolves based on what a society wants to idealize or teach to its heroes today. Let's begin with the mythological roots now. Heracles, in the Greek tradition, is a son of Zeus and the mortal woman Alcmene. His name means glory of Hera, which is quite ironic since Hera despised him and caused much of his suffering and trauma. His birth is surrounded by conflict, manipulation, and divine politics. Hera delays his birth and sends snakes to kill him as a baby. Right from the start, Heracles' life is marked by hardship and distrust. In contrast, when the Romans adopted him as Hercules, they stripped away a lot of that tension and instead emphasized his divine strength and service to the state. Hercules became a more straightforward hero, kind of like a champion of order and protector of Rome. He was less about personal torment and more about national symbolism. This shift is important because it reflects each culture's values. Greece celebrated tragic death and philosophical reflection, while Rome emphasized strength, discipline, and civic duty. And on the right here, we see is an image of Zeus's family tree, where we got the Hera, Demeter, Persephone, Ares, and continues on as we go down the ladder in the family tree. Now we'll talk about the 12 labors and their significance. The 12 labors are perhaps the most famous aspect of Heracles' myth. In Greek mythology, these tasks are not just feats of strength, they're a form of punishment and redemption. Heracles is driven mad by Hera and kills his wife and children. Racked with guilt, he seeks purification through these nearly impossible labors, each one like slaying the Nemean lion or capturing the Erymanthian boar. And this is like a metaphor for inner struggle. His story is deeply psychological, but in the Roman interpretations, particularly in Virgil's Aeneid, Hercules is portrayed as an imperial icon. He's a noble figure completing heroic acts, not to redeem himself, but to serve the state. The emotional and moral depth is often removed. The labors become accomplishments, not atonements. This shift mirrors how the Romans wanted their myths to inspire pride and allegiance, not inner turmoil. And on the left, we can see a vase and other paintings of the Nemean lion and the Erymanthian that Heracles fights. Heracles in Greek stories is incredibly complex. He is powerful but also impulsive, emotional, and even unstable. He kills without meaning to, suffers from madness, and constantly battles with the consequences of his actions. He is deeply flawed, which makes him human and relatable despite his divine heritage. Roman Hercules, on the other hand, by contrast, is more idealized, and he represents loyalty, strength, and civic responsibility. His flaws are downplayed and his victories are emphasized. This sanitized version reflects Rome's desire to present their heroes as a paragons of virtue, stable or admirable and powerful. They weren't interested in introspection as much as they were in promoting unity and strength. This contrast is critical as it shows how mythology isn't just about storytelling, but rather it's about the values those stories are meant to instill in society and to individuals across the nations. And here we could see on the right a picture of the masks that represent mental health, fate, and suffering. And usually it was used in stage play. Now I'll talk about the cultural and moral differences. This slide gets a heart of why I chose this topic. I love heroes who are emotionally complex, characters like Doctor Strange who carry the weight of their choices and power. Heracles is just like that. He represents chaos, inner conflict, and divine manipulation. His story is one of suffering, endurance, and trying to reconcile power with morality. He's not always noble, but he's always struggling, and that's powerful. On the other hand, Hercules more of a tool for cultural propaganda. He was used to show what an ideal Roman should be: obedient, strong, fearless, and resilient. His mythology serves a political function, reinforcing Roman values. It's amazing how the same basic story can be shaped to deliver totally different messages depending on the audience given at hand. And this image here gives us the differences between the Greek Heracles and the Roman counterpart Hercules. Okay, my analysis is based on three key sources. First, I use Euphrates Heracles, a Greek tragedy that dives into the emotional aftermath of Heracles' labors. In this version, he returns home to find his family alive, only to be driven mad by the gods and kill them again. It's devastating and really shows the psychological weight he carries. Second, I use the book 8 of Virgil's Aeneid, which presents Hercules as a protector of civilization, a symbol of order and power. It's a very different portrayal, and helped me see how Rome reframed the hero to fit its own narrative. Finally, I consulted Emma Stafford's secondary source, Heracles, which provided a scholarly perspective on how these myths evolved. Her book helped me understand how Heracles was viewed in different periods and why his image shifted over time. These sources gave me both literary and cultural context, making the comparison much deeper. Okay, now we're going to be talking about legacy and pop culture for both Heracles and Hercules. Even today, we see Heracles and Hercules pop up in pop culture in forms of comic books to films to video games. But it's often the Roman version, because this invincible muscle-bound warrior is very dominant. The complexity of Heracles is usually lost in translation, and that's why revisiting the old original myths is so important. When we understand how Heracles embodied suffering and moral ambiguity, we gain a better appreciation for the kinds of stories that challenge us and not just entertain us. And I think that's a big reason why characters like Doctor Strange, who are powerful but haunted, continue to resonate with modern audiences. They're not perfect, they're human. And that humanity is what makes them heroes in the truest form that we see today. And here we can see these two images representing the Roman form of Hercules uh, in movies and shows. While Heracles, usually his trauma is often lost and not shown because it's a kid's film. So instead, they show this muscular, very strong, handsome dude as a hero depiction rather than his background struggles. To wrap up, Heracles and Hercules are more than just versions of the same character. They're reflections of two very different societies. Heracles is often flawed and is a suffering hero who seeks redemption, an embodiment of Greek introspection and tragedy. Hercules, on the other hand, is the bold, stable icon of Roman strength and civic virtue. By studying both, we gain insight into how myths function not just as stories, but as mirrors of cultural identity. This project has helped me understand that mythology isn't static, it evolves to meet the needs of the people telling it. And in doing so, it teaches us not just about the past, but also about ourselves. And here we can see these are some Greek and Roman symbols of gods. And you can see the differences between them based on their societies, respectively. Okay, now for the sources, citations, references, and links. So these are all the sources that I've used for my video project, video presentation, and these slides. And starting with the primary sources, for the first primary source, I used Euphrates Heracles, which was for my analysis on Heracles. And my secondary primary source was Virgil de Aeneid's Book 8, which I used for Hercules' analysis. And my secondary source was Stafford's Emma Heracles. And this is also on Heracles, and it is more of a modern approach it's a secondary source, so it's more of a modern approach to Heracles' analysis that I used for my video project. And here we have all the uh, links associated to each of the images that I've used in the slides, and each number is reflected on what image I used. And these are each links are the image addresses, while each number relates to where I used them in the presentation. So for example, for this image here, we have 11, and this corresponds to number 11 link here for the address. Thank you for watching, and hope you have a good rest of your day, night, morning, wherever you live. Thank you again, and see you